So one of my dreams just came true. We haven't met a long time. So Dan John, thank you for coming on my podcast.
Hey, it's really great. I mean, I think the last time I saw you was in Pennsylvania at the Easy Strength workshop, I think.
Correct. And then so the funny thing is we've been chatting about aging already back then. Now you are
Yeah,
like 68, right?
68. Yeah, yeah.
And then I remember, so that was like 10, 12 years ago. And you were also lecturing about that, and you said, I can say plenty of things about how to train and live above 50, but above 60, I haven't been there yet, so I'm not really comfortable to talk about that. So,
Right.
so now you've been spending basically the last 3 years in your 60s, and you're gonna be 70. So is there anything you would recommend right now, or
Yeah,
any experience which you would
yeah.
share?
So the most important, I mean, I mean, this, the thing about being 68 is that it's one of you're paying off that. Remember that investment you made? You put money aside when you were 20.
Mhm.
Well, if you put your health aside at 20, you're going to pay a high price at my age. The best thing, general preventative care is just a lifesaver later in life. So there's two sides, I think. First off, um, if you take care of your dental hygiene, you'll be very happy in your 60s.
Mm.
If you wear a seatbelt, and of course, we drive on the right side of the road, but when you make a turn, you always look an additional time here to the left to make sure there's no
Mm.
one going to T-bone. Little tiny things like that. General medical checkups, going to a skin doctor. These pay such a high dividend later in life. Little tiny, the dental work, the skin care, the I always tell when I give workshops to young kids, I always say two things you don't want to hear from me. One, don't get fat and don't get into debt. Now, those might be very American things, but
Mm.
if you don't get fat, you'll be very happy in your 60s. If you don't get debt, you'll be very happy in your 60s. So much of it is preventive care.
Mhm.
And then on the other side, I cannot, I cannot tell you enough. Lift weights 3 days a week. And I don't care if it's machines, kettlebells, barbells, Olympic lifting, calisthenics. You have to do resistance exercise to hold on to lean body mass. When people comment online negatively about some of the things I say, I'm always like, you're 45, you can get away with things at 35, but at 65, you have to you have to maintain lean body mass. And the other thing I think is walking. I keep a pedometer in my pocket and I strive for 10,000 steps a day. 10,000 steps every day. And it's not much. And really, it's interesting because I walk before meals, I'll walk after meals, I'll walk the dog, I'll walk with my friends, but walk, walk, walk. Now, as I say that, a number of things I just said are very American things. When I go to Europe, I don't, I walk everywhere. When I'm in at Twickenham, and that's in England, I walk 15,000 steps a day because
Mhm.
that's how you get around. When
Mhm.
I'm in Ireland, walk, walk, walk. It is a very unique, it is very hard. Like, for example, for me to go to a restaurant and walk, oh, there's probably three places within walking distance of my home, but there's not a bar within walking distance of my
Mhm.
home. It's cars are the culture of much of America. So, so when I say something like that, many people in your audience might be going, I don't know why he's emphasizing it, but it's a very American thing.
Mhm.
Also, quality of food compared to the European Union, we are well below the quality of food. The
Mhm.
quantity of food, we're very good at.
Mhm.
Quality of food, not very good at. So, in a general sense, you got to lift. You have to have resistance training. You have to walk, and the third kind of the triad is you have to, and we talked about this I remember this very well, fall prevention.
Exactly.
And now, sadly, I've gotten sick twice in the last 2 years, and I've passed out because I went to vomit. I stood up to vomit, and I passed out. Last year, I hit my face here, and this year, I hit my face here. But at least I practice falling. I do things around the house to be safe. Like when I step into a shower, I always put my hand on the wall, just so my foot comes up over the tub. I
Hmm.
always have a second spot. It's just like wearing a seatbelt. You probably can drive 10 years in a row and never once need a seatbelt. But the one time you need it, it's going to literally change the rest of your life by making that decision. Putting my hand on the wall, if I step on a little slick spot with my hand here, my foot goes whoop. If my hand's not there, my foot goes whoop, and who knows what's going to happen from there. So those would be the triad of aging, I would say. Yeah.
We just published your book with Josh, right? So the fat loss book. And I believe there are many misconceptions about fat loss. So would you like name like one or two, which definitely, if there is an answer for that, fat loss will be just probably better.
Yeah, so you have to have caloric controls. And I use that real simple method of what your goal weight would be by multiplied by 13.
Mhm.
Now, that's for
That's
pounds.
for
Now, I
fun.
don't,
Yes.
and I apologize. I'm fluent in pounds and kilos and stone. When I go
Hmm.
to England, I have to know stone too, which really stones will throw you off, folks. But so for me, generally, I live between, and almost honestly, I was working with some guys yesterday. Basically, I can say that most males probably need between 2,300 calories and 2,600 calories a day.
Hmm.
That's, I mean, and I'm a bigger believer that height should be a bigger factor than so if you're 2 meters tall, you can consume a lot more calories than someone. I think I'm 184 or something like that, but 188 maybe. But if someone's this tall, less calories, and as you call it, they can have more. And I get that from a guy named Brad Pilon. But
Hmm.
when it comes to fat loss, the first thing you have to have calorie barriers. I no longer believe in cheat days or cheat meals. I
Hmm.
think it's a lot easier to, um, if you maintain, in my case, the 2,500 calories a day. And if I want to have more of a celebratory weekend, well, that means I might fast up until the event.
Hmm.
Or like we just had Thanksgiving here in the United States. And by the way, I have found that I don't eat that much on Thanksgiving because I go vegetable forward.
Hmm.
So number one, at some level, you have to understand your calories. I do like to fast. Only intermittent, I push my first meal off. So Peter, for me, I wake up, I drink coffee, I get my emails sent, I get my writing done, I get my workout in, I get my first walk in, and then I eat. And I don't even consider it fast anymore because I don't like to eat with food in my stomach. I don't know how
Hmm.
you feel about it, but I feel a little best. I mean, I can't eat a big meal and then go work out. I don't like that. And I generally eat personally, and I generally eat about 2 meals a day. And then if I snack in the day, it's generally fruit. And if I snack at night, I just count the calories. But number one, you have to have calorie control. This
Hmm.
might be a very American thing too, but
Hmm.
we'll just move on. Number two, I think you got to get your walking in.
Hmm.
And the third thing, just like being over 60, you got to lift weights at least 3 days a
Hmm.
week. 3 good workouts a week are really about all most people need, even if you're an elite athlete. I mean, obviously, and we're not going to tell that to the Chinese Olympic lifting team. You only need to lift 3 days a week. They're doing different things. But for most of us, most of the time, 2 to 3 good workouts a week with resistance are all you need. But you can't pull calorie control out of it. Now, I mean, there's a
Can
whole
I have
bunch
one
of,
question?
oh,
Sorry.
sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So you say calorie calculation. So what we are talking about, it can be calories, but would you agree on that? What we are talking about, some type of control. So that can be portion, that can be gram, that can
Yes,
be anything. Just have a general understanding how much you eat and what you eat, because what we see many times when people start to actually giving us some kind of diet log, and let's say they are honest, which is a different issue.
honest,
Yeah,
honest. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And if it's honest, then they normally they are just, they are surprised how much they eat and how much they didn't even understand that holds in energy.
yeah. So we have here in the United States fast food, and there is a not long ago I got a bag of uh, tortilla chips, a bag of tortilla chips, and it said that the bag had 17 servings,
Mm-hmm.
and each serving was 170 calories. So I just had the bag, and I was getting ready to have, for the party, and I poured the bag into the bowl, and I looked, and I realized that if you had 17 servings, it ends up being about 5 chips.
Mm.
Now, both of us at a restaurant waiting for the food could easily eat 5, 10, 15, 20 chips. Well, those chips are going to be more calories than the rest of the food that's coming from the back.
Mm.
So that's where I think most Americans get into trouble. There's soft drinks, sugared soft drinks. I don't know how you could possibly outrun that. I went to a movie last night. I went to see the new Knives Out movie, Dead Men Rise or something like that. I sorry if I don't have the actual name, but they had a special, but they included the calories on it.
Mm.
So it was a giant popcorn and a large drink, and it was big. It was a big drink, 2,300 calories. So the
Full
meal,
day.
that's basically, so that gives me what? I get to eat 3 eggs for breakfast and that popcorn and soft drink, and
Mm.
that's my 2,500
And
calories.
there was no nutrition in it, basically.
No
That was only,
well,
well,
I
not
mean,
much.
yeah, you get plenty of sugar and salt,
Yeah.
but yeah, 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 I don't, yeah, yeah. So that's where you get in trouble. I think, I think it's really hard to get fat eating salmon and vegetables.
Hmm.
I just think it'd be if I said, okay, Peter, I'm going to make you fat eating salmon. Uh, it would be you would struggle.
Hmm.
But getting fat eating bags of chips, you could easily doing that watch a sporting event.
Yeah. Yeah. And where would you rate, even in fat loss, where would you rate sleeping?
Oh, okay. So anytime we do anything, I always put sleep at the top.
Mm.
And then exercise and diet are the two twins underneath that. But and I got to tell you, Peter, as a young athlete, when I was in my teens and 20s, I struggled with getting to sleep. Now, a lot is going on in your body at the time. A lot of hormones are going on, and not just. I mean, it wasn't just the sex hormones, but
Mm.
things are changing. I remember aching at night when I was growing because my collarbones were growing. I remember
Mm.
the pain. So in my teens, I took a course called Relax and Win, and we were taught a meditative technique to fall asleep. And I got to tell you, of all the investments of my life, practicing meditation, practicing going to sleep might have been the best thing. So I am amazed at how many of my guys in my age cohort struggle with sleep. And when I was a young teacher, so, I started teaching in 1979. I remember a couple of guys were middle-aged. They were colleagues of mine, and both of them talked about how they would sleep for 3 or 4 hours and then wake up. And both of those guys made a lot of bad decisions at that time. And so I was always wary as I entered into my 40s about that sudden problem with sleep. I take sleep very seriously. We call it here in the United States sleep hygiene. My room is very dark. The house, I set the house very cold at
Mm-hmm.
night. I have really nice blankets. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I have a sauna right, literally my sauna is right here, Peter. So many nights I'll sauna for maybe not crazy long, but the what helps with saunas and hot tubs and hot showers isn't the heat, it's you cooling off after.
Mm-hmm.
The cooling off tells your brain it's time to lay down. And I think it's really important. Like most nights, I try now, this might not work for all your listeners, but I try to be in bed by 9 o'clock. Okay. Let's see, what is that? 2100 is that? Yeah, by 2100, I try to be in bed. And then most days I strive to not use an alarm clock. And my thinking process on Peter of not using an alarm clock is if I wake up naturally in time to do the podcast, to do this, to
Mm-hmm.
go, that tells me that I did a good job. Not using an alarm clock gives me great feedback on how that night's sleep was. And I'm going to give you one big piece of advice I got from our Navy Special Forces. We have a concussion expert who really focuses on sleep. And he told me a piece of advice that I'll share with you. Never use the snooze button. He says that they have research that using the snooze button tells your brain you didn't sleep well enough. So if you do use an alarm,
Mm-hmm.
get up. And even if it's and you get up and you get to going because you want to tell your brain, you want to tell your systems, I had a great night's sleeping. Let's go get to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So are you watching your, and that's a different subject a little bit, but back to the nutrition. Are you, as we hear a lot about anabolic resistance. We hear a lot about you need more protein as you age. Do you watch your protein or so you eat like protein heavy, let's say?
Yeah, I subscribe to a newsletter called the Tufts Health and Nutrition Letter. So
Mhm.
Tufts is a kind of a famous medical institution here in the United States, and they recommend 0.82 grams of protein per pound. Now,
Mhm.
I weigh 89 to 90 kilos. Basically, that's about it's a high 190s, 200 pounds.
Mhm.
So 200 times zero point 0.8, is 160 grams of protein a day. 160 grams of protein, I got to tell you, my friend, it's it's a lot of protein.
Mhm.
I mean, it's easy to say, like if you're in a bodybuilding gym and you say you eat 160 grams, someone will probably slap you and tell you to toughen up, buttercup or something. But in real life, 160 grams is tough. So I do supplement protein. There's a company here called Costco that sells. I mean, I really like Costco, and they have a coffee protein drink. It's 130 calories, but it's 30 grams of protein. So it's coffee and just protein. So if you multiply 30 by 4, which is what is in, grams,
Right.
calories per protein, it's 120. So I like that a lot because I get extra coffee, but I get a really inexpensive, when I mean inexpensive, there's not a lot of calories in that protein. And then every day I also do a berry smoothie as part of my breakfast and I get an additional 30 grams of protein out of that too. But I also drink I have three different frozen berries I put in there. And so I'm getting the benefits of berries, which are amazing for humans, and the protein. So I supplement about 60 grams of protein a day. Um, I think I probably am fine most days on my protein. I think I'm a little higher than 160 on most
Mhm.
days, but that is kind of where I think I need to be.
Mhm. Is there any, so let's say you can only do the rest of your life five movements or five exercise, either way.
Sure, sure,
Uh, which one would be?
sure. I would do, okay, easy one, okay? The half kneeling press. So I
Mhm.
love, that's the one knee down. I love that because it gives you flexibility and it works on your stability without even having to think
Mhm.
about it.
Mhm.
So it's one of those. I love those two or three first, two for exercises. You get two for one. You get three for
Yeah.
one. So the half kneeling press, you get mobility, you get stability, and you really get to work your up here everything. Simply hanging. I think hanging is really
Mhm.
underappreciated. It's great for your shoulder health and it's great for your grip. And we know that grip strength, somewhat sort of equates to longevity, though,
Mhm.
obviously it's just a test. I would say either the goblet squat or the overhead squat, depending on which way you want to go
Mhm.
on. Okay. Now, I was going to say the kettlebell swing, but honestly, you said the rest of my life. I would say the hip thrust
Mhm.
because the hip thrust gives you a lot of the benefits of the swing, but you don't have to worry so much about the ballistic forces if something goes wrong. And
Mhm.
trust me, Peter, how old are you now?
56 will be in March.
Okay, so even at 56, you've probably had that day where you thought you'd warmed up, you thought you had taken care of business, and yet something really ached the next day for no good
Mhm.
reason. Yeah, we call that life. So kettlebell swings are safe and fine, but if something goes wrong, you're going to get sore. And trust me, when you hit 68, something always goes wrong.
Mhm.
And then the last exercise would be the suitcase carry. That
Mhm.
is the one-handed farmer walk. Yeah. So
Uh,
half kneeling press,
mhm.
hanging, goblet squat or overhead squat, hip thrust, suitcase carry.
Okay.
Oh, and
So
none of them are very sexy.
yeah.
I'd much rather say squat snatch, squat clean and jerk, Romanian deadlift, incline. Much rather, there's a lot sexier exercises,
Mm.
but for the rest of my life, I think those are a good vision.
Aren't you sometimes surprised that there's so many exercise you put into the mainstream and people are referring at you back like the goblet? So aren't you surprised of that? Like you have this huge impact on the strength and conditioning word. And I'm
Yeah.
not schmoozing. Dude, I love you. I learned so much from you.
Well, thank you.
And seriously, we call some exercises after you in Hungary.
Thank you.
So just to make it
Well,
sure.
but the thing, Peter, there's always been a problem that needed to get fixed. So the goblet squat really did come. I taught the squat for years, but then all of a sudden I had a big group of people in a room all at once, and I couldn't do individual corrections. And I kept working with these different ideas, and they were all good ideas. In fact, I did a workshop years ago. In fact, it's the first time I met Pavel. It was the day before I met Pavel. And I was having these people do all these little drills to improve their squat. And within a few weeks after that, I had the goblet squat was the only way I taught it.
Mm.
So it was really a kind of a funny thing to go from all these different exercises to just one exercise over just a period of literally weeks. But anytime, I, I think if you want to be a strength coach, if you want to be a technical coach of any sport, it's problem solving that gets you to move on. And that's why it's so important to stay in community because if Peter has these problems in Hungary and Bob has these problems in England and we sit down at a restaurant and talk as we have this conversation, we'll kind of very often come up to a good answer. That's why it's always so important to remain in community as a coach, because other people are facing the same problems. The reason the goblet squat became famous was because when I went to my first RKC, they were floundering teaching the squat. And I just walked up and I said to the young lady, I said, push your knee out with your elbow, and it fixed her squat. And it was a kind of it's a famous story, but the next there was an RKC within a week or two, and the goblet squat was in the curriculum because sometimes when you struggle and then a solution appears, everybody goes, "Oh, good. Excellent. Now let's go find another problem and fix it." Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, there is a huge difference between trying to teach complex things in a very simple way or trying simple things to teach in a very complex way. And what I see with Goblet or your approach with like, let's say the goat back swing
yeah.
or yeah. So it just makes hip hinge teaching so simple that
That's
it's
that's the whole premise of this book of mine back here, The Art of Coaching.
mm,
I think if someone takes something simple and make it complicated, I think that's bullshit. I mean, I think
mhm,
that's really, in fact, it's almost I want to say evil, but it's it sounds like you know what you're talking about, but it really gets in the way. And the art of coaching, I feel, is taking something complex and making it simple.
mm,
And once you and you know, we have a sport in the United States called American football. Very complex game. If I was to teach you the game, ideally I'd make it simple. In England and Pakistan and India, they have a game called cricket. And no matter how many times people explain cricket to me, I still don't understand what's going on. And but let's be honest, soccer, football, pretty simple game. Pretty simple game,
mm,
except for the offside penalty. But it's a pretty simple game. And I mean, you kick a ball into a net. And if you do that, you get a goal, right? Now, from there, the game expands into all kinds of things. But if you can just get a bunch of 5-year-old kids to know that you kick the ball into the net, they can play soccer.
mm.
They can go play soccer by themselves for
Exactly.
hours. Yeah. So if you make something complex simple, that's the art of coaching. Yeah.
You love writing, you love contributing and sharing. So is there any new book in the chamber?
Yeah, I have, of course, art of coaching. I just came out with a new book, a follow-up to the armor building formula called, it's not a very sexy name, Armor Building Formula 2, uh,
Hmm.
which just takes all the questions people have had over the last few years. But I have a book called Tools of Coaching that I've had finished for a while, but my publisher didn't want me to put it out until 2026 because I put 4 books out in about a year. So
Oh, wow.
we're slowing me down a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And really the book, it's my book Intervention, my book Can You Go, and my book Now What combined into one simpler book. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking forward, and I know you have time. So this is you have a class starting very soon, right?
Oh, I'm going to give you more time though. Yeah. I
Okay.
talk to everybody and we should be good. So I can give you some more time.
Oh,
Okay.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So with a new book, you try to even more simplify your work and because I know you have a lot of followers who are, let's say, average gym goers, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But many of the followers, like myself, are coaches or experienced coaches and they still follow you for advice and ideas and mainly the philosophy you are
Mhm.
produced in the last, let's say, 20, 30 years, because what you what I learned from you, it was always more about the philosophy, about the system, and less about the exercise.
Yes. So, I mean, you and I could probably, if we got a whole bunch of us, the OGs of kettlebells, if we got into a room and we just started listing out exercises that we've seen, heard of, done,
Mm.
and we gave a page to each exercise, I don't know if the workout would be picking the book up. Okay. You'd have to have handles on that book,
Mm.
because it would be so thick. If we got a bunch of nutritionists into a room and said, break down, what a good diet is, of course, they'd just be punching each other. It'd be a fist fight. Yeah. Uh, what you need to be able to do is say, all of this is good. All of this is true. All of this is valuable. But to get Peter to get to his goal, we need to do this.
Mm.
You need to do these, like your question earlier about what 5 exercises.
Mhm.
That's the kind of question we need. When you ask good questions, you come up with a system. When I coach the discus, one of my in the United States, being an All-American is a big deal as a track and field athlete. So one of my throwers became an All-American discus thrower, and now she's coaching. So she came over and she said, "Would you summarize how you coach me?" So I put 8 words up on the board and then 2 phrases. And she looked and she said, "That's it?" I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "I coached you for 5 years with 8 words and 2 concepts."
Mm.
And she goes, "I know that's true, but I just thought there were more." Yeah, but all we were doing was throwing the discus. We weren't, when you throw the discus, no one runs into you, no one throws anything at you. It's a very simple thing. And with something as simple, now the discus is beautiful, it's complex, a lot's going on,
Mm.
but when you break it down, it becomes simpler and simpler and simpler. So when you have, when you can just see the essence of something, you step back and you say, this is what we have to work on. And then you can drape it over a system. And it's interesting because I break up discus throwing training into 2 periods a year. The first one is fit goes far, and the second one is smooth goes far. Neither of them is very complicated, but so for about half the year, we're thinking about getting in shape to throw the discus
Mm.
far. The other half of the year, we're just trying to smooth, clean it up, clean it up,
Mhm.
clean it up. And you got to be careful about adding fitness on the smooth side because they should be in shape to do the task. Well, and when I mean in shape, their their integrity has to be there. They have to be ready to handle the loads of high intense, big throws and stuff. So a system really is a decision that we made about what is important, what is key, what is crucial, and then we have to have the courage to follow it up and make sure we're following our own advice.
So I try to respect your time, but so how do you see that? Let's say so now you are 68. So
16.
you sorry for repeating that. It's not a plan, but
I didn't get older as we start. I didn't add any
yeah,
years.
I'm just kidding. But so let's say like 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So where do you see like, your plan is basically maintaining muscle mass, maintaining strength, maintaining mobility. So how, can you run the plan for me?
Yeah. Now, because things are different now with me, the plan has to be this. So I try to walk 10,000 steps every day. By the way, there's nothing magical about 10,000. I
Mm,
just like that it's a line in the sand.
mm,
I can do 10,000 no matter what's happening in my life.
mm,
Okay. If I have a really busy day, I can still get those steps in. Okay. But in 100 days, 10,000 steps is 1,000,000 steps. So for me, we'll just use that as the root. It's going to be what I was the first day I met my coach, Coach Ralph Mon at Utah State University. He told me little and often over the long haul. Okay.
mhm.
So 10,000 steps is a little. I do it every day, ideally for the rest of my life. It's far better for me to do 10,000 steps every day this year than it is for me to do 25,000 steps when I'm here, 2,000 steps when I'm there. So for me, the most important thing, Peter, is the consistency.
Mhm.
So I'm going to try to stay within that 2,500 calories or a little bit less, maybe, every day for at least the end of this year before by the way, and one other thing I want to make sure everyone knows, I have a coach. I hire a coach that I send in weekly updates. I send in a photo. I send my measurements in. I send my workouts in, and he gives me feedback because, and I believe strongly, if you coach yourself, your athlete is an idiot. Okay. So, and so that's just something I want all the audience to hear. Good coaches hire good coaches. I
Mm.
don't, and I also don't work on my own cars either, because that's good. Well, that's just good advice for me. So, so I can see myself continuing to lift 3 days a week. And now, maybe 10 years from now, maybe some joint issues flare up, maybe something happens. And maybe 10 years from now, we're having the same conversation, and I'll be using machines over at the center over here. There's a place I can train with machines over here.
Mm.
Maybe in 10 years, I'm training on machines, but I'm still chasing lean body mass, you know? Uh, Maybe 10 years from now, I threw discus at a high level for 41 years. So I have my right ankle has some arthritis. Oh, by the way, here's a cure for arthritis I've discovered. Lose body weight. Oh my God, I cannot believe how losing body weight helps with arthritis.
Mm.
But let's just say in 10 years, well, maybe I can't walk 10,000 steps. Let's hope not. But just for example, but maybe 10 years from now, uh, right here next to me in my office, maybe I'll have an exercise cycle that
Mm.
I get, I rotate every day. If that doesn't work, maybe I'll find, Aerodyne, maybe. But what I'm not going to do is all I'm going to do is slide over. If I can't do this, I'm going to slide over I'm just going to nudge over to something that still supports.
Mm.
I still hope 10 years from now, this is a great question, that my sleep quality is still through the roof. I'm hoping I'm still taking care of my protein, my fiber, my water.
Mm.
I still hope I'm getting that low end walking or whatever it's going to be 10 years from now. So the idea is to never, and so I started lifting weights in 1965. What year were you born?
70.
What year?
1970.
So I was already lifting weights 5 years by the time you were born. Okay. So I see myself continuing to lift
Mm.
weights. Okay.
Mm.
So it's, I want to keep the habit of good sleep, the habit
Mm.
of good nutrition. So for me, that's what I want to focus on, is a habits-based life. And frankly, Peter, I never think about most of the stuff I'm telling you.
Mm.
Uh, my brunch, after I work out, I eat, it's almost it's almost thoughtless. I scramble 2 eggs. I have that protein berry smoothie. I eat some cottage cheese, and then I have whatever fruit is sitting up there: pears, apples, mandarin orange, whatever is whatever is there. Depends on the time of year. I don't even think about it. It's just what it is. And I think that's the key to long-term success. Now, as a writer, the key to long-term success is writing every day.
Mm.
As a good parent or grandparent, it's being there for your children every day. Support, there's nothing magical about anything in life. Um, it is in the doing and the coming, keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. Now, I've done a lot of dumb things in my training career, and I'm fine with that. These were dumb ideas and stupid programs and way too much work. But when I saw it wasn't working, I stopped doing some of those things, but I kept lifting weights. I kept doing the things. And to me, that's the secret. There is don't don't allow yourself to do a 6 week diet. Or I have no issues with training programs that last 2 months or even 2 weeks. But at the end of those 2 weeks, have a real smart, logical next step. I love 6 to 8 week programs. I love them. In fact, I honestly think that every program is 8 weeks. 2 weeks of kind of orientation to figure out what we can do. 6 weeks. And then at the end of those 6 weeks, you're probably bored and tired with it. Then go into another 2 week, reorientation in 6 weeks. You can train the rest of your life doing that and have fun doing it. But when I'm doing a 6 week program and you come in, if you only see me twice a year exercise, you're going to have a hard time seeing what's different between that January, February program
Mm.
and that July, August program. You'll be going, is this different? Because it looks like what you were doing before. And I'll be like enthusiastic. Oh, it's completely different. See, I was doing 2 sets of 5, but now I'm doing 3 sets of 3. And you'll be like, okay, that's not really that big a deal, but okay. But to me, it's that those little changes. Um, I break variation down into 3 words: wild, mild, and no variation. And I think you need a lot of it. You could, like, for example, if you decided that you had, what's a program that you've done many times in your career, Peter? Can you think of
I
it?
followed many times easy strength.
Oh, okay. So if you do easy strength for 40 days, 8 weeks, and then do it again, the exact same thing, that would be no variation.
Mm.
But then you did easy strength, and by the end of it, you got sick of it. You're just so tired of it. Okay. And that can happen. So you do something radically different, this very ballistic training program. So that would be wild variation. The great American weightlifter Tommy Kono used to Olympic lift until Saturday at the Olympic lifting meet. On the following Monday, he would bodybuild until he heard about another Olympic lifting meet. To me, that's wild variation, where
Mm.
you go from here to here.
Mm.
You're still training. And the third is mild variation. And that would be like with barbells, going from the bench press to the incline
Mm.
bench. With kettlebells, it'd go from the two-handed swing to the one-handed swing or the
Mm.
snatch. So I think the key point is that you're still doing something. And depending on what you need between your ears, there are times I need wild variation. I
Mm.
just suddenly wake up one day and it's like when I finish, if I have a couple of Olympic lifting meets back to back, I still compete, by the way. Maybe by the time I've had 2 or 3, and that's, you're looking at maybe a 5 or 6 month commitment. The following Monday, I just want to work my arms, and I want to
Mm.
look good on the beach. I want to
Mm.
get myself ready for bikini season.
Mm.
So that'd be a wild variation. Okay.
Mm.
So
So that's the next 10 years.
yeah, the next 10 years, I think honestly, in the next 10 years, you'll see a lot of mild variation,
Mm.
you know. Uh, so I, I I'm hoping I can stay committed to the 10,000 steps. I'm
Mm.
hoping I can stay committed to the caloric standard, and I'm pretty sure I don't have any doubts that I'll still lift weights 3 days a week. It's
Mm.
just so ingrained in my head.
Mm.
But just gentle listener has to remember, but I also take my sleep very seriously too. I take my social life very seriously. Uh, I go dancing on Thursday nights. I go to a lot of musical concerts. I go to a lot of movies. Um, I spend a lot of time with my grandchildren. I like to play card games with friends. Yeah, I think the social, I have a group I go walking with. I have a group I do financial stuff with. I think the communal aspects have to also be. So don't ignore sleep. Don't ignore community. Don't ignore anything. And just get yourself into a nice rhythm so you don't even have to think about these things.
So while the plan was to talk about the book, which we did a little, so my publisher will be really happy. It turned out like a friendly conversation, mainly about how to slow down aging and enjoying
Yeah.
even aging. So I really appreciate that. And I'm very thankful you said yes for the invitation,
Oh,
Dan.
Peter, anytime you want to talk to me, I will be on the horn for you, man. For those of you who don't know, Peter is, you know, in all my time in the kettlebell communities, meeting you has been one of the highlights. when we were like I just remember so clearly in Philadelphia,
Wow.
you and I discussing falling and break falling, and you were
True.
showing me the martial arts tradition that you were from. I was showing the martial arts tradition I was from.
True
Uh,
that.
we were talking about, I was using what I learned in American football. You were, and that kind of that kind of interaction, that feedback, that two people who love what they're doing in a conversation, in a dialogue, that to me is what made all that period of my life so great. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. And well, we miss you because we are not working lately together, but I hope that
Yeah.
will change at one point. I really appreciate your time and also your contribution to what oh, I learned a lot from you. So
I'm back
I'm
and
very thankful. I'm
back
very
at you, my
thankful.
friend.
Thank
And
you very much.
let me know when this goes up, and I'll make sure I share it on all my platforms. Okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.